We spend a lot of time on this channel talking about infrastructure build out and the internal architecture of Cardano, especially versus other blockchains. Today, we're going to talk about the end user experience and some topics we haven't covered very much. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to talk about dApp certification, which I think is a huge understated advantage for Cardano versus a lot of its competitors. We're going to talk about the dAppStore itself, which I also think is a much bigger deal than most people realize. And we're also going to do a tiny, small little update on our very own Cardano blockchain game, Crypto Bisons. We now know a lot more about Cardano certification of dApps than we did several months ago. So it looks like this initiative is being led by Professor Simon Thompson and Shruti Appiah, who you will know from big Cardano events, doing videos. And it looks like there are going to be several different levels of certification, 3 to be exact. But first, let's talk about why certification to begin with. Why do we even need certification for smart contracts, for dApps? It's because projects in the blockchain space, specifically beyond Gen 1, so Ethereum and newer, have already lost a lot of user money. A lot of user funds have been lost. Famously, DeFi projects have lost over $500 million of user funds. And while I don't believe that all types of losses of user funds are sort of preventable, there will always be these kinds of like 0-day exploits that occur and surprise everyone. Like there will be very, very smart attackers who will figure out things that nobody's figured out yet. And there will always be attacks. You know, as long as there is software and that software is guarding money, there will be attacks and some of them will be successful. But I do think we can do a lot better than this present circumstance where $500 million have been lost. So what Cardano is planning to roll out is a 3-level certification system. So this first level, level 1, is just automated tooling. This is automated tooling. They characterize it as low cost and low effort and accessible to everyone to provide a substantial level of assurance. How substantial? We're going to find out. It can be applied repeatedly and automatically. So this is automatic. This is automated. There's not a human manually doing anything here. This is just automated tooling. And this has been characterized as being able to detect basic bugs and certain types of edge cases. Level 2 involves an actual manual audit. This is a manual audit and verification of smart contracts within the dApp itself. We've talked about how people are starting to point out that smart contract language is a little problematic because, you know, the smart contracts are starting to look more just like regular programs. It's not always, you know, equivalent to a legal contract in the legal world, and it has some connotations that are maybe a little bit misleading, but we can just think of this in this case as sort of like the Plutus scripts that are locking unspent transaction outputs. So for all intents and purposes, most people, I think, are going to think of this as smart contracts, and that's the only terminology that they're going to be comfortable with. But we're really talking about these Plutus scripts here that are locking unspent transaction outputs. And who's going to be doing this manual auditing? Up here, this article says, we are working with runtime verification, Twig, well-typed, Certic, and others. Super happy to see this list. I don't know that much. I've heard of well-typed. I don't know much about Twig, Certic, or well-typed. I do know about runtime verification. And like we talked about in the video yesterday, where we addressed the information from SundaySwap that they're using runtime verification as their auditor. They certainly seem like a very high-level auditor who will be great in that position. Then we've got this level 3 certification that they call formal verification. Why? Because it involves formal verification. One of the beautiful things about Cardano using, let's just go ahead and call it a harder programming language in Haskell. It's regarded as harder. There will be a lot of, you know, functional programming people who are going to tell you it's not harder, it's just different. Okay, I'm down with that. I can get behind that. But let's say there are many fewer people out there who are competent in Haskell than in a lot of imperative languages. But one of the big benefits to that, one of the great things about that is that we can have formal verification. So here they describe this as formal verification involving ensuring that a smart contract serves the specific business or technical requirements defined at the outset. We aim to provide full assurance of critical aspects of applications through formal verification of smart contracts. I think this is great. We've got multiple levels of certification. If somebody writes a dApp that does some silly thing and there's not going to be let's say there's not going to be any amount of money locked in this dApp, it just does some silly thing that's going to be amusing to a small number of people or even to a large number of people, maybe level 1 certification is fine. If we're talking about users of this platform or whatever it is, this dApp, locking any amount of money in there, or there being a potential for anything of value to be lost, then maybe we need to ramp up to this level 2 or level 3 certification. It's going to be really interesting to see how many dApps in the marketplace actually go through these levels of certification. And one of the best things about the dAppStore is that they don't have to if they don't want to. Here's a video called Redefining dApp Discovery, Bringing dApps to the Mass Market, where Shruti points out to us, hey, this is like a first attempt at formal dApp discovery. Previous to this, dApp discovery by end users in the crypto space has been largely a matter of word of mouth or social media. I would guess probably like largely social media. But she says, while we want to have this formal dApp discovery and we want to have these 3 levels of certification, we think that's really important. Cardano also believes in decentralization. And a big piece of decentralization when you have a platform like a dAppStore is censorship resistance. This is something that hasn't been the case with app stores in the past. I mean, you can Google removal from App Store and you're going to find a million articles about certain things being removed from app stores, just like every other type of centralized media platform we have today, that look a lot like censorship. Censorship for various reasons, but censorship nonetheless. In Cardano, they don't want that. So to get into the dAppStore, you don't need to have any certification. There's going to be no gatekeeping. They're focused on curation, not gatekeeping. And part of this curation, of course, is going to be the certification level. It will be very easy for them to create, curation based on certification levels. And they're also it sounds like this curation is going to be more complicated than just saying, hey, we're curating dApps. They're actually going to incentivize certain types of parties to engage in curation within the dAppStore. And it sounds like that incentivization will be kind of formulated so that you have many different types of parties trying to curate these dApps for various different types of users, which I think is like a great approach. I think not having a gatekeeper, letting anything into the dAppStore that wants to launch in the dAppStore is great, but then you curate from there so that you can control against any kind of censorship. But at the same time, when people go in there and they're like, hey, I'm going to use a certain type of dApp that's going to involve me depositing an amount of money I actually care about. So I want to make sure there are certain assurances in place. I think this is a great approach to this. You get both the decentralization, the censorship resistance, and you can also have certain assurances in place for critical kinds of dApps where money and other types of value can actually be lost. I keep mentioning this dAppStore. I know what you're thinking. Okay, this is great. You keep talking about all the different parameters of the dAppStore: decentralization, censorship resistance, certification, curation. But most importantly, what is this thing going to look like? Is this going to be cool or not cool? This is very important. Is it going to be cool? So Ian Pilon from IOHK here is going to show us that, in fact, this is going to be cool. It sounds like the dAppStore is going to be incorporated into the new Light Wallet. They showed us the Light Wallet at the Cardano Summit. So you can go back and watch that video if you want to see some screenshots of what exactly the Light Wallet will look like. Sounds like the dAppStore is going to be incorporated into the Light Wallet. It sounds like it's also going to be accessible via browser for everybody else if you don't want to use that Light Wallet. I think there is enough commotion right now in the Cardano space about let's say challenges for the current light wallets that I think everybody's going to be pretty happy to have a new light wallet product come out, especially one that's had quite a bit of development behind it, as it sounds like the IOHK wallet will have. So I think there's going to be a lot of new users of that light wallet when it hits the market. But the galaxy view of the dApp market looks like this. It looks like this. So what have we got? We've got these little circles, and Ian tells us they have some kind of an actual name for these circles, I think. But it looks like we've got development, community, identity, exchanges, wallets, and that middle one I know you can't see because of the play sign, but it actually says DeFi. And you can imagine, pretty easy for them to expand this out if we have some brand new genre of dApps that suddenly takes over the market. It's the latest craze, just like NFTs have sort of been the craze this last summer and autumn. Then I think it'd be pretty easy for them to just add new circles. So I'm sure this is something that they can expand, just sort of based on user needs and preferences. When you click into that DeFi circle, you get a view that looks like this. We've got all the different subcomponents: synthetics, dexes, derivatives, payments, assets, lending, protocols up here. And you'll notice this is just a mock-up, so you're going to see repeats. You'll see multiple of certain platforms even within one circle. And Ian acknowledged that this is a mock-up just so you can see exactly how this will work. What I think is so great about this, so I think this is a great, this looks like it's going to be a great intuitive interface to do this formal dApp discovery that they've been talking about throughout this video. What I think is really interesting is that this could launch, guys, on all those Boost mobile phones. I'm not saying when this launches, it will be on those Boost mobile phones. What I'm saying is one day this could be on those Boost mobile phones. That is a whole bunch of people, a huge number of people who will suddenly have a legit dApp, blockchain dApp market in their pockets at all times. That is not a small thing for the crypto space. That is a big thing, very big thing for the world of blockchain. IOHK has been on a little bit of an article blitz the last few days. They've dropped quite a few articles about different things, including this article on the Crypto Bisons game, in which we learned not a huge amount more about Crypto Bisons, but a little bit more about Crypto Bisons. And it's actually a pretty good review about how the Crypto Bisons project sort of came to be. You probably already know that Charles has a bison herd of 500 or so bison up on his ranch in Wyoming. And it's a little bit surprising for some people how this project was actually started. So Charles didn't say, hey, I want to make this bison game, this bison blockchain game. Here's how it's going to be. Instead, he laid out a design brief that just sort of cited various components he wanted to be in the game. And then it sounds like he just turned these game developers loose. So he's quoted here as saying, the original design brief was that we want to do something where we combine NFTs, algorithmically generated music, and blockchain together with a geolocation component. So this is really interesting. I think a lot of people who ever worked with teams of people who are experts in a certain domain have probably also found that when you just kind of turn them loose and let them do things, let them reach a certain goal the way they want to reach it, you oftentimes get better results than if you try to tell them, okay, I want you to do this and this and this and this. It's often better to just tell them, hey, here's the final destination I want you to reach. Get there however you deem best. I've always found that you get really good results when you do things that way. And with this game, they went to this group in France called Engmin. Engmin. Says Hoskinson enlisted the help of 6 students at Engmin. And if we go down here to the bottom of the article, they tell us what Engmin actually stands for. It is École nationale du jeu et des médias interactifs numériques. As you can tell, I can't speak French worth a damn, but I think I understand what this means. I think what they're saying is that this is the National School of Games and of Media, Interactive Media. I looked at this word. I didn't know what this really meant. I was like, numerical media? That doesn't make any sense. Had to look it up. Turns out this is the National School of Games and of Interactive Digital Media. Numérique, it sounds like means digital. So they went to the school and they got 6 students to go ahead and design this game. This is kind of interesting. says the first question we had as students was not about gaming at all, but what happens in your field when you have so many bison. One day, one of the bison had a fall and it made a noise and it was exciting. And then music is born. We thought about what will happen if all the bison discover music. I can't tell yet if this game is going to be cool or not cool. I can't tell. Here's a little, looks like a preview of maybe some of the imagery from the game. The idea for the game seems so different. I have no idea if this is going to be cool or not. One of the things I like, though, is the geolocation piece. They mention here the bridging of the physical real world with the digital blockchain world. It hasn't really been done much before. Once that's done, you can use it as a template for anything in the physical world. It can be artwork, it can be other types of animals, it can be people, places. And they also say the game objects can be shared across games, not only within games. You could reuse them in different games, but also in other entertainment support, your own music, other video games, platforms, social networks. So this is a really interesting use of NFTs that we've talked about before. I mean, we've talked about this within the Cardano space. You know, all along we've been like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could take all of your NFTs and you could insert them into things like metaverses and games? And in this article, they talk about how the bison, these bison NFTs, will actually evolve as you play the game more. The NFTs themselves will actually evolve. And they even say that they may evolve as you use them in other platforms. Here we go. In Crypto Bison, by contrast, the way the game object is used over time from game to game and even onto other platforms outside the game affects its usability. So I think there's going to be some really interesting things. I have no idea if this is going to be cool or not, but I think Cardano, once again, is sort of on the cutting edge, doing really cool things that are going to be interesting. I hope you are going to have a great weekend. In my neck of the woods, it is Halloween, which means a lot of parties, which I hope will be a good time. And I will talk to you soon.